right, we are back on Thompson to Clark, talking about a very sad week in Giants baseball. Though, I guess beating the Braves twice in Atlanta was okay. You're supposed to beat
Yeah,
the Braves at this point, I think.
sure.
But man, coming home and just dropping 3 in a row to the Mets was
Yeah.
rough stuff. And one of the things that I think it was 2 shows ago, I'd kind of broken down the first half and second half, and one of the trends of the last several years, with the one exception of the outlier of 2021, is that the Giants couldn't put together 2 halves in a row. And yeah, this second 81 games is not great, and it kind of fits the trend of how they've played, where you cannot have a full season of good baseball. It's like first half or second half, and then there's a differential. And I guess, if you're looking at the team the way that it's built, with the starting pitching being so young, it does make some sort of sense that the starting pitching isn't going to be as good in the second half.
Right.
But then you would hope that the hitting would pick up, and it just absolutely hasn't. So I don't know. What do you think? Are you expecting them to bounce back, or do you think that we're just headed for another really bad second half?
I was expecting them to bounce back. I'm kind of running out of was at this point. I don't know. It's kind of tough because the trends, when you start to just look at all the trends offensively for this team, they are, I think, since like the beginning of June, pretty much the worst team with runners in scoring position. I thought that would fix itself. I thought that would come around because that's all you need to come around really when you're the Giants and you have good starting pitching and you have good bullpen. You just need the key hits with runners in scoring position. The problem is now you've put so much pressure on the offense to do that when they do slump, the whole team just takes a nosedive. So yeah, I hate burying teams. Especially our team. I hate burying the Giants, 3 or 4 days before the trade deadline. I mean, what was it? Going back to Farhan's like first season with the Giants. I mean, the Giants have been right around 500 almost every single All-Star break except for 2021.
And in fact, this season we had one of the better first halves in a while.
But we did because of the first like 30 games of the season.
Yeah, that is true.
After that, it's just been a 500 club. And then over the last, what did I see today? The Giants are 14-24 over their last 38 games.
Yikes.
So, I mean, it's just, everything is trending downwards. So, and we'll talk about it later, but everything we've seen so far and everything we've read so far and everything Buster has said so far is this team is in. We're going to, try to make some moves.
Said so much last night, right?
Yeah. And I'm on board. Hey, if they do it, you go out and get Devers, you've got to kind of keep doing stuff, right? You can't just stop at that point and go, well, we've got Devers for the next X amount of years.
Right.
Well, no, you got him this year. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason you went out and got him this year is because you believe in this team and you think that you could push him. He can help push you over the finish line, but then you've got to go get other parts. But then since that Devers trade, the parts that they need have gotten more. I mean, so it's not like they just needed maybe we'll add a starting pitcher. I mean, the beginning of the season, we had Jordan Hicks in the rotation. We had Kyle Harrison in AAA waiting to come up. We had Birdsong waiting to get into. He couldn't even crack into the starting rotation. And now we're down to Webb, Ray, and Verlander. And just, toss a coin. So, I mean, there's a lot that needs to be done. So if Buster is going to make those moves, it's not just one or two. There's some moves that need to be made.
Okay, so what are we going to talk about? Well, we are going to talk about Whisenhunt. He pitches. They play tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he pitches tonight. We won't know what happens. The game will be. The game won't even start until we're pretty much done here. But we'll talk about Whisenhunt. We'll talk about some of the trade deadline rumors, and we'll get some thoughts on folks who could help the team. But like you said, they went all in with their big move, which was Devers. And so I don't know if there's another big move coming. It could be some smaller moves. But when you go all in like that and you give up your top pitching prospect at the time, there was expected impact that just has not happened yet. So, and then we'll talk a little bit about our player of the week, and we're gonna try out a new segment, which is the San Francisco Giants history, kind of like this week or this time frame in history, and I'm gonna try and relate at least this one, relate it to this year, and maybe some optimism will spread based off of what we're going to talk about here. But okay, because there's some small similarities into what I'm going to talk about versus this season. Okay, but let's talk about Carson. We've been talking about Carson for a little while now, and it's kind of unfortunate that his debut has to happen because Landon Roop got hurt. And Landon Roop, who we both were kind of like, I don't know if this dude is going to be all that great. He's a fifth starter, and he's never really pitched that much in his pro career. And yet, he was pitching really well for the team, pitching much better than Birdsong. And prior to when Harrison was up, pitching better than Harrison was. And then, unfortunately, he's got the elbow thing, which, have we heard anything else related to his injury? Like, what's the expectation of him being out?
I haven't heard anything else. No.
Yeah, so that's kind of worrisome. That
I mean, just that he's going to be okay.
We've
heard he's going to be okay, but I don't know what who knows what that means.
So the kid is up. He sort of inherited their best pitching prospect spot because of the trade. The things that we know, and obviously I talked to Jared earlier this year about him, and he basically said the guy doesn't have electric stuff outside of one pitch, which is his changeup. Mm-hmm. And he says if his changeup plays huge for him in the big leagues, that may be the only excellent pitch that he needs because it could be so good. The fastball is not fantastic. It is below average. And then his other stuff is sort of rounding into shape. But Jared did say that the changeup is the big pitch for him. And so we'll see it starting tonight. But a little bit of like a happy moment for me, because I've been wanting to see this guy throw, but also at the same time at the expense of another young pitcher getting hurt. So it's a little bittersweet. But what are you looking for with Carson Whisenhunt?
Yeah, I'm with you on that too, because we wanted to see Wiz come up like in September, get a couple of starts, maybe be the fifth starter just because he was ready. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's gonna be tough. Does it feel rushed? A little bit. Like you said, I mean, we're definitely feel that way because does he have a third pitch? We don't know. That's kind of the big question. They do talk about his slider as possibly being his third pitch. I don't know how well it's developed at this point. Obviously, they feel it's developed enough because when you've got Mason Black and Kawei Tang down in AAA who have been there for a little bit and could probably pop up and fill that spot as well, in order to bring up Whisenhunt and say, look, man, now's your time. Let's get you in there. Is he here to stay? Probably not. At this point in the season, if the Giants do make a trade, Roop gets better, Birdsong comes around, then Whisenhunt can finish out in AAA the rest of the season, and then we'll get him up, in spring and see what he could do. But he's got that 70 grade changeup, and he's got the 92 to 94 mile an hour fastball. So if they play off of each other really well, that's good. But usually you see two pitcher as like a seventh, eighth, or ninth inning guy. You don't necessarily see him as a starter. So,
Right.
so I'm really, for me, I really, really, really want to see what that third pitch looks like. I want to see what he's throwing for a third pitch, and if it's a pitch that he can get guys out on, because if it becomes predictable, the fastball and changeup, it could get kind of tough for him. His numbers in AAA were not good this year. AAA, they were not good last year. It is the PCL. I mean, PCL. I don't even know if they really call it the Pacific Coast League anymore. I think they do. But that's known as a hitters league. And, you've got places like Reno here where I'm at. I mean, you've got high altitude. And so you've got a lot of ballparks that play small in that league. But his strikeout rate has gone from 28% last year to 21% this year. How does that translate to the bigs? I mean, his first start is against the Pirates, so he's kind of facing a AAA team as it is. Not to knock the Pirates, and I laugh, and they're probably going to hit the crap out of the ball tonight. But there's kind of no better time to get them up. So that's probably what the timing is all about too. You got a home night game where it's been a little bit chilly in San Francisco lately against the Pirates, who are a bad hitting baseball team. So I'm looking to see maybe 4 or 5 strong from him. 4 innings. I see 8, 9, 10 strikeouts, couple of walks, and hopefully no more than 2 runs in that amount of time. A nice showing in his first outing would be great.
So the Giants face a Pittsburgh Pirates team. It is a Pirates team they should really whip on, because the Pirates are 13-37 away from their home park. They're actually a halfway decent home team. What's funny is the entire NL Central, every team in the NL Central is an above average home team. You look at the NL West and you have the Diamondbacks, and then the Rockies are 14-38 at home, which is just, what a disgrace. What a disgraceful organization. Jesus.
They're going to put up a historically bad season. It's just wait until this season is over. I mean, the record books are going to be rewritten for bad baseball teams by the Colorado Rockies this year. But you know what? They still draw a lot of people. I haven't been there. I haven't been to Coors Field. But when you watch Coors Field on TV, that's a place I want to be.
Oh, and I would love to go there, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I was on MLB Reddit, subreddit the other day, and people were talking about, like, how are the Rockies drawing more people than, they're like in dead center in terms of attendance. And somebody said, have you seen that they have like $5 gigantic Coors cans?
Right. That is right. So I did see that.
You can go grab a $5 gigantic beer, sit, watch the sunset in the summer at Coors Field, and just watch baseball. You watch the other teams. I mean, we used to, when we were growing up, we would go to Oakland. The Coliseum was a dump, but I'd go in the 80s because I wanted to see George Brett and Wade Boggs and Dwight Evans and, Joe Carter. That's why I went to the A's games. I wasn't an A's fan. And even though the A's had some great teams, and you go there and you got Canseco, McGuire, and Lansford and everything else, I was going to watch all the other teams, and I think it was like $2 beers or something like that too. So did I get off on a tangent? Where did I go? What were we talking about?
We were talking about the terrible Rockies.
Yeah, there you go.
So one other thing, and let's talk a little bit about Birdsong, because I think we were high on Birdsong when he first came into the rotation. We're like, hey, like this kid, he goes right at the hitters. He throws hard. He's just looks the part. And we were kind of figuring like, oh, who would we rather have, him or Harrison in these spots? And then he just hit a wall. Like, I still don't even know what happened. Like, I haven't really seen anybody talk about why. Like, why did he all of a sudden just hit this wall where he can't throw a strike and he's walking 3 guys in a row? And it's just weird. I'm like, did he just turn into Nuke LaLoosh? Like, what happened?
$1 million arm, 10-cent head. Who knows? Yeah, I don't really know. It's pitching is such psychology, man. And when you have a situation like that, and then you have a situation like Kyle Harrison, You start to, I mean, personally, I start to think about coaching. I go, do we have the guys to psychologically bring our guys out of this? Camilo Doval has gone through it too. Do we have the pitching staff to psychologically bring these guys out of it? And I know JP Martinez is really highly thought of. So I'm going to say, yeah, they do. It's just an unfortunate situation where it's happened like 3 times on a staff now, where you've got, Kyle Harrison falters, Doval falters. I'm going to throw Ryan Walker in there too.
Yeah.
Falters. They're trying to bring these guys out of it, and then Birdsong. So it's tough to watch as a Giants fan, because pitching's going to have ups and downs, but you don't think the downs are going to look like they've looked like for us over the last season with Walker, Doval, and now Birdsong. I mean, those are downs. Those aren't like, like Webb right now is having a tough time too. But we know Webb, and we know he's going to pull out of it, and he's going to have 3 or 4 starts in a row where you're like, this guy is like NL Cy Young Award winner. I mean,
Right.
we've seen him struggle in the summer sometimes here and there. So, but yeah, it's disheartening, because we really like Birdsong. And we know what he is when he's on. He's dirty, nasty. I mean, he can easily be your number 3 guy in the rotation without a problem. So I just hate to see it. I hope he gets right.
Yeah, and again, it is that young pitching when you have 2 guys at the back end of your rotation who have never thrown, more than 100 innings in their big league career. Like, it's tough to ask that of them. But I think we also probably expected Verlander to pitch a little bit better than he has, though he did finally get his first win of the season.
Well, we'll just say it's growing pains. I mean, like you said, they're young. You just reminded me again. These guys are young, and we knew that going into this season, that they're young and they hadn't pitched that much. So you just have to chalk it up to growing pains, and how do you fight through it? And they're going to come out on the other end better for it, especially JP Martinez and his staff. So let's just, let's look at the end of the rainbow, the bright side of things.
Were there any in this like really bad just stretch of baseball? So obviously the losses to the Mets, those losses to the Blue Jays that we talked about last week, just coming out of the break, just seemingly, I mean, I can't measure the inspiration of the team, right? This is a long season, and for whatever reason, they just have not played well or consistently. Have you seen any sort of possible positivity, things that you've liked during this recent play? I mean, there's been a couple of Jung-Hoo games, but then there's been other Jung-Hoo games where like he tries to bunt like when the bases are loaded and stuff like that.
That was rough.
I'm just trying to think. I guess, Chappie had a really good game yesterday, but even though, he has big hits like that, it is a little bit inconsistent. We looked up Devers' numbers as a Giant, and they're not great at all. I'm just trying to look for something that might be a sign, just something, a sign of positivity, and I don't know if I can find it.
Well, I mean, in Atlanta, they go back-to-back games, right, where they score 9 runs, and so you're looking at that, and you're just reminded, like, okay, I mean, this team, when they're gelling and they're getting on base and moving guys along and getting the big hits, this is a high-scoring team if they can live that way, but they can't live that's not who they are. And we thought at the beginning of the season this team was going to be faster and more athletic. That's what we heard, right? I mean, they're definitely not faster. They trade for Devers and they're not faster. Definitely not more athletic. But I think the positives of this are, we saw what the pitching staff was, the starting pitching staff at the beginning of the season. We kind of know who they can be when Webb and Ray are on. Verlander, again, should he have more than 1 win? Absolutely. At this point, he probably should have 4 or 5 wins. There were some blown saves for him. There were games where he pitched really well and the offense didn't score any runs for him. They go on to win the game, but he's already out of the game at that point. So, yeah, I again, the positives I see are those 2 games in Atlanta. Is that enough to say, hey, we're gonna be all right? No, it's not. It's definitely not enough to say that. But it's
and then what did I say in the chat? I was like, can we save some of these? Like, can we just score 5 and let's save the other 4 and spread them out? And then they go 1 run, and then 3 runs in the Mets series.
If this team scored 4, I'm gonna do the gambling thing. If this team scored 4.5 runs a night, this is a probably a 12, 13, maybe 15 game above 500 ball club. The problem is you can't have a game like last night on Sunday Night Baseball where Matt Chapman hits 2 home runs.
Take the lead.
Take the lead, and then you lose 5-3 because that's your offense. You can't do anything else. And the game that Devers hit 2 home runs, they scored 9 runs. Everybody else was doing things, driving in runs, hitting home runs, doing different things. That's what you need. You can't have one guy. You can't have one guy be the hero every night on offense. That's draining, absolutely draining for the dugout. You got to be able to say, we got the bases loaded. We know we're probably going to get 2 runs out of this. But us as fans, we're sitting there watching. We get the bases loaded with nobody out. And we go, we're going to be lucky if we get 1 damn run out of this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now, and it's getting tougher and tougher to watch and think that when the bases are loaded, we're in a good position. You should feel, this is baseball. You should feel bases loaded, nobody out. You're in a good position, but we don't feel that way at all right now.
Not to be so negative on Devers, but what did you think of his adventure there at first base the other day?
That was pretty rough. The one play where he kicked the ball and basically threw it to himself at first base. I was like, well, he got the out, so we're good there. But then later on, I mean, it's his adventures at first base just make you look and go, can we get Bryce Eldridge up soon? Because even if you got Bryce Eldridge hitting the crap out of the ball, he got 4 home runs in the last 6 games, I think. But he's still only hitting 261 on the year. It's a strikeout rate of like 30%. I mean, it's pretty high. But he can play first base, and they're still working on him playing first base. But he's got way more experience at first base than Devers does.
I still think if he had more reps and they trusted him at first base, I think he'd actually already be up by now. I think that's the one thing that stops him is just they don't trust him yet, and you can't have he and Devers both non-playable in the field. Maybe
Devers is the test. They put him out there and they see what Devers is doing, and they're like, okay, yeah, we trust Eldridge. Let's make the change.
I want to see more JT. Let's have JT. Like, let's hire JT. I mean, JT probably has like another job and is probably really successful, but
he's probably chilling. He probably owns a car dealership. Is that what they do after they retire?
Let's put him in a uniform. Let's hire a new coach, and his entire job is just to shadow Bryce Eldridge, and like every day he's like, Bryce Eldridge is just like hanging out. He's in the big club, and it's like, think fast, and he like throws a 1-hopper at him, and he's got to like field it. Let's how do we increase the speed in which Bryce Eldridge can be a major league first baseman? Because at this point, like we were just saying about the pitching, it is very young, and to expect them to all of a sudden be able to help a team in a pennant race, like maybe, but more than likely not, just because of what we talked about of them not really having thrown too many innings. Same thing with Eldridge. And if we're okay with the growing pains, as you suggested, might as well throw him up here because he's already at AAA. The pitching in the ballparks, we've heard all the things about, your best prospects are in AA, and he's just in AAA to get reps off of, guys who may be a little bit more advanced with their stuff, I would be fine with bringing them up just because now the one thing you don't want to, this whole start the clock thing that we dealt with, for over the years, there's that.
I don't care about that. And again,
we
fans
as fans don't care about that.
Buster
Posey and company may care about that.
Sure.
But I almost look at it as like, if the Giants fall closer to 500 and they're only 2 games above 500 right now, and you're kind of playing this season out in preparation for next year, like, might as well just throw the kid in there and let him get some ABs. And then if he just struggles and he's 1 for 25 with 13 strikeouts, then yeah, you can send him back down. But it'd be nice for him to get a little bit of a taste, because I think the fans would like to see what he's doing. They'll get some people at the park, to go see his first couple games. So I'm into it. But again, they have a whole system of how they do this, and we're just looking for things that will excite us, because the team is not that exciting right now.
I think the hard part too is we see Nick Kurtz doing what he's doing. A high power guy, high power prospect first baseman that the A's bring up, and we're like, well, we got one of those guys too.
Yeah.
Can we bring him up? But again, Kurtz was older. I mean, Eldridge is still 20 years old.
Yeah.
And he's still striking out 30% of the time. That's not going to get better in the majors. That's going to get worse. And fans are going to crap their pants if you're looking at a guy striking out 40% of the time. They're not going to be
Kurtz
happy.
is only 22.
Yeah, but still, that's a year and a half more in AAA. Think about that, though.
I'm looking at his minor league stats. He only played. Okay, so now we're not comparing Kurtz to Eldridge, but he only had 151 minor league ABs.
That's not. That's geez.
And
I knew he didn't have a lot, but that is not a lot.
No.
And
actually, maybe less. 125 ABs, maybe.
And
might have been 151 plate appearances.
Eldridge has 779.
The thing about Kurtz, though, is he just raked like hell in the minors. 712 slugging in his 2 minor league seasons.
Yeah, you can't keep a guy with 712 slugging down in the minors now. In comparison, in AAA, 495 right now for Eldridge. I still feel like if we're going to see him this year, it's probably going to be September call up. I still don't know if we're going to see him this year. I still kind of think we'll see him in spring training next year, a lot showcased heavily, big time, with a huge chance to take that job.
Yeah, and the offseason they may just have JT Snow adopt him. Like, that might be the play. Just, hey, adopt him. He hangs out with you all summer, and you teach him the bigs. You even teach him how to save little kid bat boys from getting plowed at home plate, like all the good stuff.
What was that show, My Two Dads?
Yeah.
So you can
All
get
right,
JT
there.
Snow. Yeah, you can get JT Snow and Will Clark to adopt him for this for the winter. And then you could do My Two Dads Part 2.
I don't know, man. Will Fleming might not like that one.
Yeah, that was brutal. That was not nice.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the trade deadline stuff. So, do you have a target out of all of these rumored guys that the Giants may or may not be interested in? Is there one that stands out to you of like, oh, I could actually see this possibly happening?
I like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. The Giants need a second baseman desperately, I think, than they need much of anything else. They need a starting pitcher. Bullpen, I still think they have guys in the minors that can bring up and kind of plug in. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Pittsburgh Pirates, another guy who's going to be in the yard for the next 3 days. Didn't we make that? Didn't we make that Sanchez trade? 2010. Why can't I think of this?
You talking about Freddie?
Freddie. Yeah, I kept wanting to say Jonathan, but that's different Sanchez.
Different Sanchez.
Freddie Sanchez was playing
that
for
one was a
Pittsburgh.
little dirtier than Freddie was.
Yeah, exactly. So he was playing for Pittsburgh, and they were in town. Giants made the trade. He picked up his stuff, walked from one clubhouse to the other clubhouse. I'm hoping that happens with Kiner Falefa and Mitch Keller.
Yeah.
If that happens, we might have to give up quite a bit to get those guys. I haven't looked, though. I don't know if I think both of those guys are free agents next year, so it might not be too bad. You might.
Well, it looks like Keller is controllable through 2028. Is that right?
Okay, so that's going to take a big name. That's probably going to take a big name. It's I'm sure all of these teams are asking about Bryce Eldridge. I could see Bryce Eldridge being on the move if the deal is right. But again, if he wasn't in the Devers trade,
right now the Devers trade, Devers' trade, his actual value was lower because of the money.
That's right.
So I don't, not to say that any player, like I don't think Buster looks at it as like any player, specific player is off the trade market for them. Like if all of a sudden they're like, hey, we got Ohtani, we want Eldridge, like sure, like right,
yeah. But if something looks sexy.
But short of something that is like gigantic for them, he's probably not going to be on the move. But then you think about some of the players they already gave up on Tibbs, who was in that trade with Harrison. So you traded 2 of your top 5 prospects. Their top, actually the people that the one prospect is the kid who's in the what is their rookie league called? The Gonzalez. Is it Gonzalez? What is his name?
Oh yeah, yeah, I know who you're talking about, and
I'll get his name here in a second.
I always forget low prospect names, but
Josue De Jesus Gonzalez. Yeah. He's in rookie ball. They have the 2 different, the black and the orange team or whatever. That kid is only 17 years old, but he is already the number 2 prospect according to MLB.com. So he's the guy that people will even probably try to poach more so than Eldridge. But I think unless you get just the top player available, and there's not that many big names out there that I think are going to be traded.
I think Devers was the name.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right. And so those guys are the ones that they kind of circle it and protect. You also have Whisenhunt, who's hopefully going to be able to help the big club sooner than later. But after that, there's not a lot of big names for them as far as like, the sexy prospects. So they're going to have to continue building that. But if they gave, if they traded any of the, some of the 6 through 15 names, I don't think fans would be that disappointed, but it's more so because those 6 through 15 aren't seen as like tippy top prospects like some of those other teams. Okay, so let's talk about some other guys here, because you mentioned Keller, who comes up a lot. He's also on some other teams' trade target.
Oh, he's on everybody's. Yeah.
Merrill Kelly, though, interdivision, he would kind of fit in that like Verlander, Robbie Ray position, veteran arm. Yeah. I've seen Severino with the Mets. And Cabrera with the Marlins. Any of those names kind of knock your socks off for pitching?
Severino maybe. I think that's it. Merrill Kelly. I mean, Merrill Kelly beats us.
Yeah, he does.
So, so getting him, what does that
mean?
Yes,
addition by subtraction.
Do we get 2 more wins this year?
Yeah, we'll lose 2 less games just by him being on our team.
Exactly. I mean, none of the starting pitching other than Keller really floats my boat. I mean, there's going to be some names like, I was really liking Seth Lugo But then the news broke last night. He signed an extension and he's staying in Kansas City. So that's done.
We talked about him last year too.
We did. Yeah, he was a guy that his name was thrown around because he had a year and a half of control basically at that point. And then this year he had a half a year of control, and then he upped with the Royals and was like, "No, I'm going to stick around here." He likes the barbecue, maybe. I don't know. Kansas City. They got some good stuff. So,
what about offensive players? Is there an offensive player that their name's kind of tied to the Giants? You're like, oh, that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Kiner Falefa, the guy. Stephen Kwan, I think, is a guy, and I know Eugenio Suarez is like the number one guy. So it was Devers. He was off the board. Then it's Suarez. He's going to get traded. Detroit, I think, is going to make. That's what I'm hearing lately, is that Detroit's going to make a massive move for him. Detroit's kind of going all in, so that's kind of exciting.
Might as well.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a good team. You get them. See, and that's the thing. The Giants aren't like a missing piece or a player. We're not going out and trading for a player that's going to just, bolster our team. We're going to trade for players that are actually going to make a gigantic difference. That's what we have to get.
Yeah.
So does a guy like Stephen Kwan make a gigantic difference? He's hitting over 300. He's a 300 hitter, not a lot of power, got speed, plays fantastic defense, and he's a Bay Area guy, which is kind of an added bonus. I mean, that doesn't matter when you're trading for players, but would he flourish being in San Francisco when he grew up in the South Bay? I mean, that's quite possible. But those are kind of the guys. I see you've got Josh Bell on the list. Again, it's another first base DH guy.
Yep.
I mean, Kiner Falefa and Stephen Kwan really make the most sense for the Giants.
How much would Kwan?
Like those guys.
How much would Kwan mean in trades going back, though, because he's already a multi-time All-Star,
right?
And he's still got years on his deal. I would imagine the Guardians pretty much go, okay, like if we were even thinking about it, like Eldridge just got to be involved.
I don't think so, because he's not. I don't think he's worth an Eldridge. That's the whole thing. He's kind of fallen off a little bit this year. His second half last year was not very good. And so I don't know, because of the lack of power, I don't know if you have to give up power to get no power. You know what I mean? I would assume you probably go like a frontline prospect pitcher that the Giants have, and maybe even like, if you're also making a move for Kiner Falefa, maybe a Casey Schmidt goes that way too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they have an eye on him as being like, hey, he could be a middle infielder of the future for us. And then Jose Ramirez isn't going to play third base for, forever. So maybe they see something in the Casey Schmidt. So things are going to get creative. But yeah, I don't see Stephen Kwan or Kiner Falefa, really commanding a guy like Bryce Eldridge, just because of Bryce Eldridge's massive power.
So Kwan avoided arbitration this year by signing a 1-year deal for almost $4.2 million. So he's got 2 more ARB years left. So his 28 and 29-year-old season, and then he is a free agent in 2028, and he is he's currently hitting in the 280s ish. With like you said, not a lot of power. 285 with 9 jacks, and I'm down with the 2/3 of the outfield being Asian, though. I'm down with that.
There you go.
But you kind of wonder, like, his profile fits a little closer to Jung-Hoo Lee's profile, and you would want to, though he's got more pop than Jung-Hoo. I don't think Jung-Hoo has 9 home runs.
Right.
They would play a little bit more small ball with him. But yeah, no, I dig it. I like him as a player, but he's not going to be Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have to be that sexy power hitter if Devers
No.
is that, which he hasn't been yet. But he is a good baseball player who could probably help you win some ball games.
Well, and also the fact that, Adames is becoming that guy as well. So if Adames is becoming that guy and Devers continues, to kind of get better and we start to see the power more, and Chapman getting healthy, he, had a lot of stuff going on the first half of the season. So if he's getting healthy as well, and you got those three guys, and then at some point Eldridge does come up in like September, you got a lot of power. I mean, that's okay. You got to have guys on base because, I mean, you're just going to hit solo home runs, and that's not going to do anything for us. So having guys on base and guys that can scoot around the bases as well, I mean, that's huge. So having guys like Kiner Falefa and a Quan in the lineup, and then I know JJ, your son, will be happy that we'll never see Yaz again. If that happens, I'd be very excited about that.
The guy who's been a little bit of a target for us in our chats lately has been Elliot Ramos because of his poor defense. But he would probably have to be a guy going back in a Quan trade. But he also has his years are he's got arbitration 1, Super 2 1 estimate for next year, and then 27 arb 2, 28 arb 3, 29 arb 4. So you would even have more control with Ramos than you would with Quan. The Giants would have to pay more for Quan in the next few years, but so that would actually be I think a lot of Giants fans would be okay with that trade off. Like I think Ramos is a nice player, but his defensive inefficiency has been very noticeable this year, and he hasn't hit as well to kind of offset that like he did last year. So
yeah, he's kind of Chili Davis-esque without the glove a little bit. But here's some news that's kind of interesting that just came out. We're just talking about Eugenio Suarez, so this will be in the news, I'm sure, a lot tomorrow. The Tigers are going to make a run for him. The Diamondbacks are playing the Tigers tonight. He got hit in the hand by their closer.
Oh, Jesus.
And had to leave the game. So a Tigers closer hit Suarez in the hand at 95 miles an hour, and he had to leave the game. That's not good. I wonder what the clubhouse is going to be like after that. I mean, the Tigers won the game 5-1, but I'm sure they're all looking at Will Vest like, come on, dude.
All right. If you were to make a guess, if you were to hedge your bet, does Buster make a small move, a medium move, or no moves? Because I don't think we expect him to make a giant move because he already did. He made his big move.
I fully expect medium moves, like maybe 2 or medium move and small move. But I expect not a move. We haven't talked about it, but Doval has been brought up as a guy possibly being traded out of the Giants, out of San Francisco, and then bringing back another reliever, from somewhere else in another trade. So, Doval, I mean, what maybe you do Doval and Ramos for Quan, because again, Cleveland lost another reliever today in Emmanuel Clase due to the betting scandal.
Oh, Clase is in that? I didn't know
Clase,
that.
yeah. So he was suspended for the next month as they're investigating. So, and that was announced today. So now their closer is Cade Smith. They could use relievers basically. Are they fighting for a spot this year? Probably not. But if you got Doval for control over the next couple of years, you can part ways with Clase and it won't hurt as much. And
Doval's got 2 more ARB years, but he is making about almost. He actually makes a little bit more than Steve Kwan does.
Yeah, he does. So you can send him and Ramos there and get Kwan and maybe a low level prospect or something like that, a pitching prospect. Whatever happens, I can almost guarantee you, I think Buster's going to bring back some pitching prospects, some starting pitching prospects at some point. But
you know what? I would consider Quan if they were able to trade for him, I would consider that a semi big move, just because he's a 2-time All-Star.
Yeah,
Like you
I
trading
agree.
for All-Stars, that would be pretty big. I think if they do make deals, I think those deals will be more so for this year and the future. And if they make any deals that are kind of based on, okay, can we get a little bit closer to this wild card? They're probably going to be guys on 1-year deals who they don't have to worry about bringing back
Yeah.
next year. So it'll be interesting to see how Buster attacks his first ever trade deadline. So,
and there's also Jaron Duran from Boston.
there you
so
go.
So there's two guys. You got
That'd
Quan
be
and
the big
Duran.
one.
I think ESPN has Quan at number 5, Duran at number 6, but they've got Quan tied to San Diego and Los Angeles. But they've got Duran tied to us. So,
Wow.
I mean, that's, and San Diego and, a couple other teams. But still, I mean, either one of those guys, I think I'd be super excited to have. And I wouldn't put it past Buster to, have something like that in his back pocket. I think that'd be pretty exciting.
Duran's got a club option for next year for $8 million, and then he's got 2 more ARB years before free agency. Though he's already this year is his year 28, so
Yeah,
age season 28. All right, so let's end this show by something that we're gonna try and figure this out if this works or not. And I was interested in doing a This Week in Giants History kind of thing, and I looked at the 1987 Giants. So the 1987 Giants, very near and dear to our hearts as baseball fans. That was the team where we were like, oh my gosh, are we actually going to make the playoffs? Are we actually a good baseball team?
Are we seeing this? Yeah.
Yes. And so if you remember, they made a trade that season. They fell 5.5 games behind Cincinnati on the 4th of July of 1987. And general manager Al Rosen decided to acquire Kevin Mitchell, Dave Dravecki, and Craig Lefferts from the Padres.
There you go.
Also added over the next part of July, Rick Russell and Don Robinson. So he added 5 legitimate value players to that team in 1987. Now, Buster has not added, all of these different players, but he was adding those players to a team of Will Clark and Robbie Thompson and Jose Uribe and Jeffrey Leonard and Chili Davis, Candy Maldonado, Mike Kruko, and such. And so the Giants did not initially play all that well from that day forward. So they make that trade July 5th. The Giants are 40-40, 5.5 games back. They go on a little bit of a nice winning streak, but then they hit a little bit of a wall. And by July 24th, July 22nd, which was a Wednesday, they're 1 game under 500. And they head into St. Louis on July 24th, and they sweep the Cardinals. And by sweeping the Cardinals, they get within 2 games, 1 game of the Reds. And so they would kind of play back and forth, and they would then go on a run in like the last week of August. They would finally get on a win streak and kind of pull away to win the division. But that time frame, July 24th, is when they showed that they could play with St. Louis. St. Louis would be the team that would actually beat us for the National League pennant. So it's kind of a nice look back where I was like, oh, 1987, they made, coming off of, you got to like these kids, the 1986 team that we grew up on, where we're like, oh, Thompson and Clark and all these young players and Matt Williams is coming. That, that's kind of how we view this year's team with, some of the young pitching, maybe more so than the young bats, Eldridge coming up. But I thought it was interesting that in 87, because my memory of 87 was that they were a good team for most of that year, but they were kind of average like the Giants are
Yeah.
right now for most of that year. And then they go on this run in August and they pull away and they really make their mark. So all of that to say is if you can tinker with the team and add a couple of players that are beneficial, who is to say that they cannot go on a bit of a run? Because they haven't really been hot since, like you said, since the beginning of the season. They've just been 50-50 or less since then. And so that is actually something that, when you change up some of the players, you can kind of create a little bit of energy for the team. And so that could happen if Buster does find the right deals. Or the flip side of that would be, we like what we got. We've invested in Chapman and Adames and Jung-Hoo. We got this young pitching. We got Robbie Ray for another season. We're going to play it close to the vest, and we're going to let some of these younger players, fight their way through. And we're setting up for next year. That could also be the play. So I just thought that 1987 team was kind of an interesting comparison to what they have right now.
Yeah, for sure. And 2009 even. I mean, you kind of see flashes. You see like, okay, we got some young guys who can do some stuff. It would 2009 is a little bit different because you had Pablo and you already had Pablo was showing his thing and showing that he could hit, but Lincecum was winning Cy Youngs and then you had these guys in the minors. You had a guy named Buster Posey and Matt Cain was on his way and Baumgartner was on his way. So you kind of knew you had all these guys. This team doesn't quite have that, but they do have the fight and they do have, and I messaged you guys last night in the group too. I was like, the Dodgers are taking a dump everywhere on the field, but we can't do a damn thing about it. We're just sitting back and taking our own dumps. We're watching them do it, and we're like, hey, well, let's do it too. I mean, it's like, it's for the taking right now. And San Diego's looking too, and San Diego can't push ahead.
Yeah.
So nobody's pushing ahead of the Dodgers. So it's just kind of frustrating to sit back and watch. And it's like, I know you can't scoreboard watch and like, in late July, but you kind of have to and look and say, look, we could pass these guys, man. But, of course, I'm sure the Dodgers are going to make some moves. But yeah, I mean, this is a team that has promise. And we knew that. I mean, 500 club. And then we knew, like, let's see what Buster can do. Can he push us over 500? Or even if we finish 500, could we see some improvements to the roster, to the minor leagues, to the farm system? So that's what the next couple of days are going to show us, I think.
Yep.
Does he add to the farm system? What does he do to make this club better after the trade deadline, whether it's by, subtraction or addition? So that's what I'm excited to see.
So let's end this show with a little bit of sad news. The passing of Ryne Sandberg, who we got to see like his entire career.
Yeah.
This is a tough one because, 1984, that Cubs season, that very special Cubs season, they lose
Super
in the NLCS to the Padres. But I got to watch a lot of Cubs baseball for one reason and one reason only, which is we had the WGN network. And when I would come home from school, because the Cubs only played day games, I would get to pretty much see like the 8th and the 9th inning every day. Like just go and turn on WGN, and you get to see the end of the game. And you get to see Lee Smith come in and close. And they were never a favorite team of mine, but because of how I was able to watch them, I actually watched almost as much Cubs games as I did Giants games. Because if you remember back in the day when we were younger, you only got to watch the Giants road games. If they were at home, they were blacked out. So I'm going to read from the website, the Marquee Sports Network website. So in January of 2024, Sandberg announced he had been diagnosed with metastatic prostate cancer.
Yeah, man.
7 months later, he announced that his cancer was in remission, but then said in December of 2024 that it had returned. So it was in remission, but it had returned very quickly. And so we are assuming that that is the reason for his passing. He provided a health update this month, sharing his treatment plan and thanking fans for their support. So really, really sad. Like, he's only 65 years old, and man, what Hall of Famer. Dwayne Kuiper used to joke because Ryan Sandberg used to get all these gold gloves, and he would say that Ryan Sandberg has to dive for balls that Robbie Thompson would get to on his feet. Just that Robbie Thompson had so much more range, and sometimes you get more range, you're making more errors because you can get to more baseballs.
Exactly.
And so I used to always take that with me. It's like, Sandberg's great. He's a Hall of Famer, but Robbie Thompson was probably the better defender. He just would have more errors because he'd get to more baseballs.
Yeah.
But we kind of saw the next generation of Sandberg with Kent, because Kent was that power hitting second baseman who we really kind of saw with Sandberg, that big right-handed hitter, who probably would have in today's baseball may not even have played second base, may have been at third or may have played some first. But yeah, it's so sad to hear about Ryan Sandberg. So unfortunate, and man, losing some good ones, man.
Yeah, just one of the all-time greats of the game. I remember being at the 89 Game 5, 89 NLCS Game 5, Giants-Cubs, Candlestick Park. I mean, that was just, probably the last time I saw Ryan Sandberg play in person, but just larger than life. He was, when you talk about the Hall of Fame, that's the type of player that gets into the Hall of Fame. The guy's 10-time All-Star, won the MVP in 1984. Like you talked about, that 84 team. This is a weird stat. In 1984, he hit 19 triples.
Oh, wow.
19 triples. I think most guys would be happy to get 10.
Yeah.
But to almost double that in triples for a guy who's a home run hitter, and he hadn't quite been a home run hitter yet at that point. So, but still 40 home runs in 1990. That guy was just a force. So rest in peace, Ryan, man. Rhino.
Yeah, that's a bummer to end the show on a note like that. Yeah. But you have to talk about it.
He had ties to the Giants. I mean, that whole 89 NLCS. I mean, he because Will Clark. I mean, Ryan Sandberg in the NLCS in 1989 had a monster series. The only guy who had a better series was Will Clark, and those two guys were just...
Grace was really good in that series too.
Yeah, Grace was good. That's true. Grace was good in that series too. But yeah, I mean, it was just a crazy series. So Ryan Sandberg has a lot of ties to this Giants club. So. Yeah.
All right, let's end it there. So we'll have our eyes on the Thursday trade deadline to see if Buster adds any more pieces. We'll talk all about it next Monday on this very show. So for Brad, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.